though in a different move order. So we're going to see the Colle come about in a slightly different move order than normal, right? So d4, knight f6, knight f3, b6, e3, bishop b7, and bishop d3. Okay, so I mean here white is not fully committing to the Colle system just yet, because black hasn't really made it clear exactly what kind of system he's going to go into. He could not actually play d5 at all and just go into some other sideline here, right? So what white is doing is just doing what he normally is going to be doing, and that's just put a bishop on d3 and then on f3, pawns on d4 and e3. So that we are certain, and we're definitely certain that we're going to castle at some point, right? So once e6 is played, castles, and then now d5 is on the board. So this is the moment where you can either choose to go into a Colle, or you can even go to a c4 system here of with a normal development of knight c3 and things like that in that respect. So anyways, b3, we are in the Colle. Here we go, b3, bishop d6, bishop b2, and castles, and knight to e5. So in the last video, we did see white play knight d2 first, because it is very important that we do not allow black to occupy this e4 square successfully. But in this game, Barbero, who was playing white, decided just to go knight to e5 first, which is completely fine as well. c5, and then knight d2 on the board. And knight c6. Okay, so this is a very common setup. This is probably something that you would see a lot in your games against the Colle. It's probably the most common setup, I would say. I mean, I've probably seen this so many times in the system, in the Colle-Zukertort system. And well, here there's a move that we have to play in terms of just keeping it with our practice of the Colle, right? And that's a3. Just so this knight on c6 that is now on c6 doesn't bother our bishop on d3.
And that's actually a line that you should always understand. If they play a knight to c6, usually the next move is a3. Usually.
Mm-hmm. And luckily, actually, today we're going to see some games where my guy forgot to play a3, and we're going to see what happened. But anyways, rook c8. I did show a game with Tomas versus Akobian, excuse me, last part 1, I believe. And I just don't want anyone to be confused when Akobian played rook c8. I remember telling you guys that it is no longer playable. That is still the case, except the knight was on d7, okay? And instead of a3, f4 was already played. So just want to make that distinction. So and I can actually we can even look at it really fast. So if instead knight d7, knight b d7, we no longer need a3 because the knight is not on c6. And now we go at f4. And now if rook c8 is actually a slight inaccuracy here because of the moves that we saw in the other game where we went for the double bishop sacrifice, and this worked. Of course, in this game, we see knight is on c6, not on d7. So after a3, rook c8 is completely fine. Hope I'm not confusing anyone with this. I hope you're still with me. All right. And then f4. So f4 is going to always be our main idea to cement this knight, this wonderful knight on e5, and also just gives our rook play too for a future rook lift on f3 and either g3 or h3 depending on the structure. So f4, c takes d4, c takes d4, and now Liao goes knight e7. Queen e2. Remember, we don't necessarily place the queen on e2 unless black takes on d4. If there's no open e file, then this queen does not need to be on e2, right? Because it doesn't do anything on e2. So after c takes on d4, e takes on d4. After knight e7, now queen e2. Makes a lot of sense here. Bishop b8. Okay, so now here with bishop b8, I think I believe knight e7 is fine, but bishop b8 is actually a new try in this position. And although it was, I mean, it's a very interesting move, right? But it actually failed pretty easily in this game. And we're going to see exactly just why, actually, in a few moves here. So after g4, I mean, white's going to go for a full-on attack. After bishop b8, black hasn't really made any improvements to stop white's attack. So he goes on with g4. And then the move queen c7. Now, I actually explained the sneakiness behind queen c7 here. And I wonder, so the question is actually, should white continue with the plan of rook f3 or with the plan of g5? Can we actually continue with this plan?
No. But that's probably a better question answered by the chat. But yeah, I believe that you can't play this actually. I think one of the main lines is actually to play the rook to c1. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, of course, you have to play rook to c1 when you have this battery of the queen and rook on the c file open. Because like let's say if we go like g5, then we allow this knight on e4. And I believe I mentioned this in the first part as well. It doesn't matter how you take, but let's say you win the pawn here. c2 will hang at the end of the variation, and then black just gains like a massive initiative. Because the rook is going to land on the second rank, and as we know, rooks on the second rank are very active pieces, and well, he's going to have complete domination of the c file as well. Maybe he's going to be able to double later on. So this would be such a, and it's honestly it's a very easy move to just like miss, right? Because it's not an immediate threat because you see your bishop on d3 is defending c2, and you're not really worried about c2. So when this does happen, though, just take your time, pause, think about black's intention here, and then just go rook c1. Solid. c2 will not hang at the end. So now 94 is not possible. So king h8, rook f3. Again, with the basic idea of rook lifting and just swinging on over to that h file and start your attack. Because after I can get this rook on h3, I will be pointing at h7, which I would also threaten the move g5 to weaken the protection of h7, right?
And this position, black has to play very accurately. If they do not play accurately, they will lose. And this is basically the turning point of the position. Right after rook f3, this is where they have to play computer moves and find every single move, which is why I like this, because our plan is very simple.
Yeah, it's very simple, it's very clear. And you kind of right away already see that like black kind of regrets playing bishop b8. Because look at that bishop now on b8. It is doing nothing. It is just there. The battery is not effective because that knight is looking like a stallion.
Yep.
On e5.
The bishop is what we like to call garbaggio.
Yeah. It's not. It's just chilling.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the show continues. Knight g6. I mean, okay, so now black is at least trying something, right? He's trying to somehow release the tension in the center, remove this knight. Hopefully, he get a few pieces off the board. And of course, yeah, if this knight starts to break down, then this battery later on might be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but we just simply ignore it. We want black to take on e5 anyway, so we close that diagonal and just have a strong close center there. So we go with our plan, g5. Right, we wanted this knight to move anyway, so we can weaken the protection of h7. So probably better was knight g7 here. Actually, no, not knight g7 is not. Actually, yeah, knight g7 is possible here. Actually, we're gonna see that. After knight to h5, this knight is also going to be very, very misplaced. So after g5, knight h5. Question: should this rook on c1 stay to defend c2 still? It's the question of the day.
Yep. And I'll leave the chat to answer that, because what was the main threat, and why did we have to play rook c1? And if they don't have that threat, then what can we do? Or do they still have that threat? This is a question for you guys. Knight can't go to e4 anymore. Good job. Good job.
Very good. Yeah. Yep. Very good. Very good. Yeah, very good noticing that. So yeah, now this knight is no longer e4. So now this rook is relieved of his duty and can now serve purpose somewhere else on the board. So white continue with rook f1. Knight takes e5 and f takes e5, just closing the center down. Literally all of black's pieces on this side of the board are just they're just not playing.
Yep.
They're just not playing. So the only actual pieces on the board are is the rook on f8, the queen on h5, and this queen on h5 as you can see.
The knight on h5.
Excuse me. Yeah, the knight on h5. Whatever. It could be any piece, and it's still not looking good here. Actually, if it was a queen, maybe. But
yeah,
the knight on h5 is just not it's not going to be a happy piece in a few moves. So after queen e7 attacking the g5 pawn, still no need to panic. I know here it's almost automatic to just like defend your pawn with another pawn and just like kind of keep it solid. But remember, we actually need this h file open, right? So just defend the pawn with a piece. So queen e3, very simple. You just defend the pawn. The h file is still accessible. Rook h3 is still in the picture, and we have some play still. So rook c8, and then now rook h3, attacking this knight. Now you can see that this knight is virtually just trapped. Really, it doesn't have any squares to go to, so it has to make it a square for itself. So g6. And here comes a very beautiful move.
Is it? Well, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of moves in this position, but the two that really strike out to it's like rook captures h5 and also rook f6, and I like rook f6 a little bit more because it just leaves us when we can sack next move, and then we can start protecting everything.
Yeah, I think I believe rook takes h5. I want to say something. I mean, I think that still wins. I think that definitely still wins. A lot of things still win. Although I think rook f6 actually the most accurate, just because we don't allow
anything,
any of the black's pieces to come to the defense of the king side. So like if you can imagine a position where like I'm sure it's still losing, but like takes, and I can maybe get my rook on g8 going,
right,
and defend g7. Right, just give it that time to defend, and then so we have to take on h5 in the right moment. But yeah, that's I still think if you take now though, I think you're definitely winning still.
Of course.
Yeah, but rook f6 was definitely played first. Preparing this move, rook takes h5, as you guys will see very soon. So after rook now to c8, we see the move rook h5. And well, okay. I mean, I'm threatening to double and continue attacking h7. So you kind of really can't let this rook stay on h5. You almost have to take it, right? So also, I want to just know for my beginning viewers who probably don't see why this rook is not takeable. If knight takes the rook on f6, we can just take with the g pawn attacking the queen, and queen to h6 is coming with too many threats, and that can't be defended. Okay, just if you were wondering why it's not takeable. So rook h5, pawn takes, and the big move here, rook to h6, attacking h7. And it was at this very moment that black said, "I have had enough," and he resigned. I mean, a lot of these games that I found, or actually that I found from a file that I was reading, they're very short games. you don't really see Colle-Zukertort go into like long 60, 80 move games. It's kind of like white is just coming up with a ruthless attack, or there is also some positional value in this. We're going to actually look at the positional value of the Colle, but for a lot of these games, I mean, white's just attack is just like relentless. You know what I mean? So.
Yep. It's very aggressive, and it's why I like showing this a lot. It's very simple in the plan area. Like, you don't have to plan so much. You know the plans, and there's not much that you have to prepare. You just have to know your lines, right? And a lot of people get confused in other openings because you know that you can transpose with the Colle. It's none of that. Once you get into the Colle, you know what your plans are. They're pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty much. And then just you're pretty much leaving it up to black to find the right defense of all that, right? So, we have a
Yep.
Of course, we're gonna go to another game. I did a little bit of my homework.
A little homework.
a little bit.
Right, now that we're on quarantine, we have to do a little bit of the homework.
It's a little bit, you know? Not too much though, because then my head hurts. All right. What do we got next?
It's probably a result of the drinks.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even start yet. As a matter of fact, after this game, I'm gonna need to go for a break. If you know what I mean. Anyways, let's load up the next game, guys. Boom. All right. So this, I don't know why it still says Liao and Barbero, but that's not who's playing. And this is a game between and please help me with the pronunciation of this. He's a very famous chess player. Some of you might know him, but I think it's Wei. Is that right?
Wei?
No. It's
Ui?
Is it Wei or is it Wei?
I think
if anybody's from Netherlands in this chat, please correct us if
it's the EUWE guy, right?
Yeah. It's the EUWE guy. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
It's the EUWE guy, right? I remember I said it the way that it's spelled, and like someone was just like appalled, like, "Well, how could you say it like that? It's Uwe." I'm like, "Where's the V, bro? Like, I don't see the V in there."
Listen, we'll just call him the EUWE guy. I think.
Yeah. So or we just call him Max, man. I'm just call him Max.
Yeah, call him Max. Max is his name.
Yeah. We're gonna call him Max.
We have Oiver in the chat. I think that's the way you're supposed to pronounce it. But we don't care. His name is Max.
Okay, and then this is him versus Kroon. And okay, we're just gonna start from this position because this is I feel like at this point you guys should be familiar with the Colle position here. So, here, Black played rook e8 with the idea of playing e5, right? And I think we've made it pretty evident here that we cannot allow Black to play e5. I even know when I teach my kids this, man, like they get the setup, everything is great, pieces are out, king is castled, bishop's on b2, everything's looking fantastic.
They have all their pieces developed,
and then they completely ignore like rook e8. They'll like go 3, which I mean is sensible, right? Because you're trying to stop this knight, and then just allow Black to play e5.
Oh,
and I'm like,
95 first. 95.
Yeah, I'm just like, come on. Like, that's the whole game plan. Don't let him play e5. And it's moves like this where it's like it should just scream out like, hey, what is my opponent's idea here? I don't know. Putting this rook on e8 for a reason. Right? So, yes. So after rook e8, knight e5, not playing a3 just yet. Queen c7 and f4. Okay. Just notice that he really didn't have a chance to play a3 because typically Black takes the time to play b6 and put his bishop on b7. And when Black takes time to prepare all that, then White has the time to play a3. But even if you don't get a3 in there, it's not the end of the world. Okay. It is principle to play it, but that should be it shouldn't be as important as this center that we want to achieve, right? We want the Colle center to stay tight. So queen c7, f4, c takes d4, and now we're going to see knight b4. So this is exactly what happens when you don't play a3, but Black played a line where he delayed b6 and bishop b7. So he wanted to go for this line to see what kind of action he gets. But because of this rook on e8, white can actually gain a tempo with bishop b5. So he doesn't lose c2 right away. If we don't have bishop b5, then we would have to just give up this bishop for the knight. So luckily we have bishop b5 to save the day. So rook e7. And here, we can't play a3 because c2 is hanging.
We have one move.
So we have one move here, and that's c3. Saves the pawn, and now kicks out the knight. That was on b4. After knight c6, white goes with another attacking plan in the Colle, and this is also definitely possible as well. It's the other alternative from rook f3 is queen f3. So bishop d7.
I have a question for you.
I
think in this position, if we go back one more move, there's another plan that's a little bit more modern. Whatever Max's last name is.
Yeah.
There's I think a newer plan of playing queen e1.
Queen e1 is interesting. Yeah. Queen e1 is interesting.
Saying, hey, I can always go to the h file and I can go to h4 as well. So and maybe leaving some room for your pieces maybe to go back to e2, or maybe letting the knight go to f3, which is probably the main idea of that move.
Yeah,
just a different way to go about it.
No, of course. Yes, and that actually probably still does. I think it's the same purpose that the queen wants to get in the h file anyway. So I guess however it manages to get there, it's good. So I guess queen e1 also makes a lot of sense too.
Right, and thank you for the raid, Squirrely. So much love.
Oh, my guy in the house. What's going on?
What's Squirrely?
What's going on?
Man, Squirrely. Squirrely almost beat me in a match.
Oh yeah, how did that go? By the way, I wasn't here for that.
It was a struggle. It was a struggle.
It was a struggle. Oh my goodness.
I came out on top, but luckily.
Oh my goodness. I could see because you're still streaming. My goodness, I can only imagine. It's tough getting lost and coming back on this. But you know what? We do it. We do it big. So queen f3, bishop d7. And of course, white's going to repurpose the bishop back to where it should be. And now brings it back to d3 because it's not doing anything on b5. And now bishop to e8. Black at first had a plan, but then now wasted some time with his whole knight b4 idea, and then now somehow this bishop ended on e8. And it is defending f7, but probably overprotecting f7, right? So queen h3, which is the plan of queen f3 to get on this h file. Just like JT was saying too, though, if the queen had landed on h4, I think it does the same thing as well because it still puts pressure on h7. Black is forced to defend the pressure on h7. Maybe only two ways here: have h6 or g6. He ended up going with g6, but just so you guys understand, there is a threat of knight g4 for instance, knight g4 for instance. So let's just say black just plays a whatever move, I guess a6 and knight g4, right? And if you take, then I'm going to take on h7 with check, and then king f8, right? And of course, if you don't take, I will take with check on f6 and then take on h7. So this is actually a very common idea when you guys have this kind of setup. So g6 and queen h4. Look at that, JT. Maybe your move would have saved time.
Yeah, that's one of the main ideas, because one of the main ideas in this attack is to get the queen to h4 and potentially hit the dark squares. Yeah. But if they don't have those moves, I think we can go up a tempo or two.
Yeah, maybe g6 is no longer possible since the knight's hanging on. Yeah. If the queen were already on h4. But all right, here we go.
This is why I need to be a grandmaster.
I know, man. I know. Queen h4, attacking the knight on f6. The knight goes back to d7. And then here, here c4 was played. But let's look at what happens if black decides to defend this knight with g7. Well, if king g7, then the same move that was played in the game anyway, c4. just because now, and I believe we saw this in the Alyakin game where he plays c4, right? Yeah, but then now this bishop is just lining up beautifully against the king on g7, and then opening lines now makes a lot of sense because of the weakening of the king side already.
And this almost looks like, if you play c4, this almost looks like an exchange Slav.
Right, yeah, when you take...
But we just have a way better position.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, all your pieces are active, whereas his blacks is just cluttered.
Exactly. Like, how did the bishop get to e8?
I have no idea. So knight d7 and c4 anyway. Yes. So let's open this position up. There's no clear way to go about my attack, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make your pieces feel completely uncomfortable here. And then also, I mean, he identified that the dark squares are weak now, right? Because if the bishop, let's say, were on g7, then I think f4 would come with much, with... Let me hop this around g7 so you guys can see it. If it were on g7, then the dark squares would be less weak, and I feel like an alternative plan would have to be made here. But because it's on d6, on like the wrong side of the board here, the dark squares around the king is highly weak. So just opening this dark square bishop up is going to just improve your position completely. So knight f8. I know JT has a very famous saying: "If not f8, there's no mate." But in the Colle, it's immune to that theory. So knight takes e6, and this is actually a beautiful just finishing touch. Actually, knight takes e6, and then there's two ways to three ways to capture back this knight: pawn, queen, or bishop. Right. Just note that if pawn takes, well, you see that this bishop is actually trapped. So we'll win the bishop after c5. And well, same thing if bishop takes, c5. And the cool thing is that black apparently saw this and thought, well, I can just take a queen and I can move my bishop. But then my man Max said, hey, my friend, c5 anyway, and resigned. Why resigned? Take a look. If this bishop moves, my friend the rook over here will be hanging. So if bishop goes to c7, yeah, you're right. It's not trapped. You can go to c7, but then now the rook hangs on you. And then, yeah, the game was over after c5.